Hi. So today we're going to learn about stress and how it affects our brain and our body. And what we want to get out of this class is to learn about the different types of situations that cause us stress, to learn how our brain and our body respond to stressful situations, and to understand the bad and the good consequences of stress. So let's start by imagining for a minute that you're worried about paying some bills. You're not sure if you can pay this month. But it's a beautiful summer's day, so you decide to go for a dip in the sea. You hop in, you swim a little bit further into the sea, you float a bit, and you enjoy feeling that feeling of the sun's rays on your face and how you float in the salty water. You're in a totally relaxed state. Then you slowly start to open your eyes and you see a shark fin and it's coming towards you. Your heart starts to beat rapidly, you breathe quickly, and you start moving as quickly as you can. You do everything you can to get out of there. You got to escape, or that's it. Well, this reaction, that's your body's stress response. Your heartbeat and breathing get faster. Energy, oxygen, adrenaline all get sent to your muscles. And this is a collection of changes that happen to allow you to respond quickly to threats. And it all works perfectly to help you survive the shark attack and live another day. Now, let me ask you a question. When you're swimming away from the shark, do you think your mind is distracted? Did it wander to something else? More likely, you're just thinking about moving your arms and legs as quickly as possible to get away from the shark. And in the same way that your body gets filled with adrenaline when faced with stress, your brain gets filled with a kind of cousin chemical of adrenaline called noradrenaline. But don't worry about its name. This chemical in the brain that's released in stressful situations, it keeps you alert and focuses your attention. And this helps make sure that you're not distracted when you're swimming away from the shark. So far, it kind of seems that stress is wonderful. It helped us get away from the shark, and it also stopped us worrying about our bills. So, stress is your body's way of saying, this is the most important thing that's going on right now. I need to spend all our energy right now on swimming away from the shark. We can forget about all that other stuff. But other things in the body also need energy. Things like digestion, growth, even reproduction. When your stress levels are really high, your body tells those other things that they can wait. And that's not a big deal if it's 30 seconds swimming away from a shark. The problem starts when the stress reaction happens regularly or for a very long time. And as humans, we've managed to convince our stress system to kick in not just when we're in danger of being eaten, but in many other situations, like when we're in danger of losing the respect of other people. Actually, we have a whole range of social and psychological things that can cause us stress. Think for a minute, what kind of situations cause you stress? And what about your children? What kind of situations might cause them stress? Sometimes you feel stress in situations where you feel that you might be judged negatively by other people, like in public speaking, for example. And in fact, our brain and our body react in the same way to physical threats and psychological threats. So whether it's a shark coming at you or a speech that's worrying you, you get a similar raise in the heartbeat and the same sort of mix of chemicals floating around your brain and your body. And the reason it does this is because you sometimes need this boost to prepare for events that need extra energy or focus. It's your brain and your body's way of preparing to act. So why is it sometimes when we're really stressed, it can seem impossible to think clearly? So to understand this, let's talk a little bit about how the brain works. The middle of your brain, along here, that tends to be in control when your mind is wandering or you're just chilling out, not doing anything in particular. The bottom of your brain has this other little area that tells the rest of your brain when to be afraid. If this part of your brain is in control, we either just run away or fight whatever's in front of us. But the front of your brain can usually control these other areas and say, look, I know you were scared in this situation before, but there's no need to be scared now. Let's think a bit more practically. And it turns out there are actually 3 main levels of stress. And each of these levels of stress is dominated by one of these brain areas. So let's first look at the low stress state. We should be in this state most of the time. It's a state of total relaxation. This is when your body can digest, grow, if you're a child, maybe also if you're an adult, and just generally recover. This is when the middle of your brain is in control and your mind can wander or be creative. Then imagine that you're in this relaxed state and you get asked to do an interesting task. For example, say you're asked to solve a riddle, and if you're correct, you'll win €100. Ideally, this will give you a small boost up to a medium level of stress, and this will focus your attention on the task. This is where the chemicals in the brain are at just the right level for the front of your brain to take control. This is where you can think clearly, stay focused on the task, not let your fears take over, and plan your way to the prize. But if you're at that medium level of stress and they say, well, actually, if you get the riddle wrong, you have to pay us €10,000. This takes you up to a high level of stress, and the front of your brain effectively shuts down, and the bottom bit takes over. This is scary. Suddenly, we can't think clearly and we just want to run away. This is what happens in one really stressful situation. But we can have stressful situations all the time. And if we repeatedly get into these kind of high stress situations, then our brain starts to adapt and make some changes. The brain cells in the front of the brain, they get a bit smaller. And those at the bottom, they get bigger. And this makes it harder for the front of the brain to control our fears. And this can actually end up leading to us feeling that all sorts of different situations may carry some danger. So we always need to have our defenses up. And when this happens, we can end up developing problems with anxiety. This is where we feel stressed and we feel danger in other situations where most people feel relatively calm. In another case, if we feel that all of these stressful situations are just a bit too much for us, then we can start to feel helpless, that maybe there's nothing we can do about the stress. This can lead to us feeling depressed. And actually, if we have a lot of these stressful situations when we're children, the front and the bottom of our brain, they can develop differently, which can make us more vulnerable to stress later on in life. And children who are very stressed when they're young, they actually tend to do a bit worse in school. But it's not all bad. If children meet slightly stressful situations when they're young and they learn to deal with them successfully, that can make them more capable of handling potentially stressful situations later on. And once they get used to overcoming stressful situations, they become resilient. In contrast to pampered children, the ones who never come up against any sort of stress, they can fall apart the first time they even deal with a mildly stressful situation. So ideally, we want our children to be able to explore the world and deal with challenges, but not come up against such stressful situations that it becomes too much for them. So to conclude this week, we learned that stress is just your body's way of saying This is the most important thing I can do now. Let's shut everything else down. This can shut down digestion, growth, recovery, which is fine for short periods, but can be a problem if it happens over the time. We also learned that our brain and our body react in pretty much the same way to physical threats and stressful psychological or social situations. Also, a bit of stress can actually be good. It can help you focus your attention, but you should generally be relaxed most of the time. And when stress is too frequent, our brain changes, and this can make us less capable of thinking calmly. But if we learn to overcome some stressful situations, then gradually we can learn to deal with more and more stressful situations and become resilient. So thanks for listening. Enjoy your session now with Mr. Finan, and please come back next week and we're going to learn about how important sleep is for us and our children and how we can make it better. Thank you.